So is Dylan Brooks coming back next season?
To the Grizzlies or to
Like
the
fire that
NBA?
guy off into the sun.
You know what the saddest part about all that was? He talked all that shit. After that, he never talked to the media.
Talk about a little baby.
Asking
I get it.
LeBron, he can't respect LeBron until he drops 40 on him. Series clinching game, they beat him by 40. LeBron doesn't have to score 40. He's going to beat you by 40.
I I get the shit talk. I really do. I get it. Especially if you know, like you're a defensive guy. You're supposed to be a defensive guy, right? Like look at Draymond, talks a lot of shit. Look at Steven Adams, he talks shit out on the court. You never know it, but he does. They're like a lot of those guys. You name it, time after time. Defensive guys who can't score, they're going to talk shit because the only thing they can do is get inside your head and make you miss shots. They can't do anything else. I'll give it to Draymond though. He'll give credit where credit is due. 9 times out of 10, there's a few times where he has decided to not go up on that podium after he's been given a two-piece and a biscuit.
But
Dylan
never in the
Brooks,
first
Two
round.
piece and a biscuit. What
Dylan
Never in the
Brooks,
first round.
sucks? Dylan Brooks sucks ass.
fire that guy off into the sun. It's not worth it. Did they
That was
draft that guy? Like what? Who is Dylan Brooks? Where's he from? I know nothing about him except that he talks
he
a lot of mess and his attire is garbage.
he went
Not
to
as bad as
Michigan
his play.
State. Michigan State was where he's come from. I don't know if he was
Well,
drafted by
Tom
the
isn't.
Grizzlies or not, but things went downhill whenever he came to the league.
Dylan Brooks. Let's give your Wikipedia page a little help here. 27, old. He played at Oregon.
Ah, never mind.
Oregon.
He was a second team All American and earned Conference Player of the Year in 2017.
In the Pac-12, that's okay.
He's Canadian and plays for the Canadian men's national team.
That's not a good team if he's on it.
He was drafted with the 45th pick overall in 17 and has done really nothing since. He has a career high of 36 points in his second year in the league against the Thunder, who were awful in 2018.
But was he drafted by the Grizzlies?
Yes.
Okay.
He was drafted with the 45th pick overall. No, excuse me. He was drafted 45th overall by the Houston Rockets, but then was immediately traded to the Grizzlies. So the Rockets knew right away this is not a guy you want on your team. He did score 19 points in his NBA debut. So he started off good, and this is where he is.
For a team that had such high hopes, they
As
fell down
Charles
fast.
Barkley would put it, he's not the driver of the bus. Okay, like he's not. He's riding along with other guys.
He's got a field goal percentage of under 40.
That's normal. That's average.
39.6.
Maybe just slightly below average.
Maybe
It is
slightly
40.
below
It is
average.
42% this season.
Mm,
NBA average.
that's
So
a good year.
he is 30. That would have been right about average in 21-22. So yeah, 42% this season, a good 3% under. Not looking good for old Dylan Brooks.
Darren. Oh, Darren Brooks.
You guys are being hyped on the NBA or not saying anything. Why is the guy who apparently doesn't know ball carrying this NBA conversation?
Man,
I
I'm doing
mean,
research.
honestly, I just don't want to talk about Dylan Brooks. He's out of the playoffs. That doesn't intrigue me much.
I didn't. I don't know if I called it, but I was like, I would love to see the Lakers bounce Dylan Brooks round one, and that's what happened. Lakers, LeBron and Steph are playing right now. That's what matters.
First time they're playing in the playoffs, and it's not the finals.
How about that comeback by Steph and the Warriors and Steph dropping what the most points in an NBA playoff game?
No, most points in a game 7.
In a game 7, sorry.
Very impressive, but
I think we all knew it was coming.
yeah, the Kings shit down their leg in the fourth quarter of that
game. They really did.
They didn't make a shot for like the first 7
Their
minutes,
knees
man.
were shaking.
Everything was short. Oh,
they were not ready.
Hang on.
They were right there the whole entire time too. Like Mr. Clutch was not clutch at all.
The worst series of round one, New York and Cleveland. I thought Cleveland should have been able to take that. I think it's embarrassing that you have two guys like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and
Evan Mobley,
a team that is basically led by Jalen Brunson right now.
And Julius Randle got hurt during the series. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Well, now with the with Milwaukee out, I believe the Knicks have been, prior to losing the first game to Miami, had the highest odds to win the NBA championship.
Whoever, I mean, I understand
Vegas.
Miami's an 8 seed, but when it comes to the NBA playoffs, you got playoff Jimmy on your team. The Heat have also been to the finals with a very similar team not too long ago. The Heat of all the low seeds should be the one that people take seriously. Jimmy Butler's on that team, bro. Playoff Jimmy will eat your fucking heart out.
Playoff Jimmy is another entity. He's not human when he goes in to the playoffs.
This is the Jimmy Butler that was on the Timberwolves, chose all the G League guys off the bench, played with them, gave the starters buckets, immediately left practice, went on an interview with Rachel Nichols immediately and said, these guys are ass.
He's everything Paul George wants and should have been.
I love now in 23 that Jeff Teague has come out and finally given the story on what exactly happened that day. It's been long enough, so thankfully he's finally come out and done it. Have you guys listened to Jeff Teague tell that story?
I mean,
fuck with Jeff Teague though.
That came out a long time ago. Not the full specifics of it, but that story came out a long time ago too.
Well, he's now released, I think, the full story and the specifics of it, and basically he was just
Jeff Teague on a podcast with him.
It was on a podcast. I don't think it was his.
I mean, he's not in the playoffs, so what does he have to do right now?
Is Jeff Teague?
Is he still playing?
He's still in the league?
I don't know.
I don't think Jeff Teague is definitely not in the league anymore.
I'm surprised Mike Conley's still in the fucking league.
Yeah. Golly, that guy's old.
But anyways, do we think Denver finally makes it to a finals?
Not to a finals. Conference finals, maybe. It's going to be a tough series against the Suns, but you got Jamal Murray back playing like crazy.
Didn't they just go up 1-0 on them?
1-0.
They're up 1-0 and they're playing right now. If the Nuggies can hold off the Suns, I think
they could beat anybody.
I think they make the finals. I think
if Jokic and company can beat KD, they can beat LeBron or Steph.
I don't know.
I don't know if they can keep up shooting. I don't think they can keep up the shooting with
the Warriors.
No, I don't think they can.
They definitely
Not a
changed
default.
Steph has
because
to play out of his mind the entire series
Steph has to
for
play
the
out of his
Warriors.
mind, but Klay Thompson has to show up because he has not shown up in
That's
these
fair.
playoffs yet.
That's fair.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
If push comes to shove, though, he usually does.
Push came to shove in Game 7. He was 1 for 10 in the first half.
Yeah.
This is not Klay of old.
well,
No,
I think
he did have a bad night. Yeah.
I think a lot of the NBA is streaky when you get down to the 3-point shooters. So I don't know, if you bully a team like that, which I think Denver could, it's I mean, people get hurt all the time nowadays, so it's like it's not the recommended path to take, but I don't know, man. It would be nice to see some fresh blood. I think
Now that the
Jokic.
first round's pretty much over, who do you guys got? Who we made an early call. I said the Warriors, as much as I would have liked the Kings. I'm still going to stick with the Warriors. Who you guys got going to the finals?
Oh, I don't even know who I picked last time. I don't know if I picked last time.
I wanted. I know. I remember saying I wanted Philly to come out
Yeah.
of the East, so I'm going to go ahead and pick Philly. I mean, fresh faces. Philly and Denver. There you go.
I like that.
In Denver.
That would be. Maybe it doesn't do well in the ratings for the NBA, but I'd like it. I'd watch it.
I got Miami coming out of the East. I like Jimmy Butler too much. Even with Tyler Hero having a broken hand, I don't care. I like Jimmy too much.
Are you aware that Jimmy sprained his ankle at the end of the game?
He's
Game
fine.
one? I'm just
He's fine.
throwing it out there.
I'm aware. I'm aware. He's fine.
Just making sure you know all the facts.
Jimmy doesn't miss games
Okay.
in the playoffs.
I'm going Lakers Celtics. I want to see Lakers
Damn.
Sixers, but
The old timey matchup.
Nobody cares about the Lakers and the Sixers anymore.
That would, I swear to God,
that would be the highest.
You would say, yeah, you say nobody's going to care about that, but that would get the highest ratings this year.
Year 20 LeBron versus the up and coming Celtics, who should be winning the title right now.
Up and coming. They've been up and coming for the last 15 years. Knock it off.
They've gone through a lot of players in 15 years, man.
Knock it off, dude. They've been up and coming. I am so tired.
They won a title 15 years ago.
Jason Tatum's nearly 30. He's been up and coming for the last 10 years.
That's how it works in the NBA, man. I've never heard of LeBron's in
Can't
the
be
league
up
for
and-
20 years.
My-
You can't be
my
up
high
and
school
coming
beat-
at this point.
Jason Tatum in the state playoffs.
He's also not nearly 30. He's 25.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude.
Right.
But that was my point. It's like he's been.
Well,
in the
it's
league
hard to call them up and coming when they were in the finals last year. It was Boston and Golden State.
Up
It's
and
the
coming
young.
as
You
in,
don't
like,
have to
it's
say
their
up and
time to
coming.
win.
They're just the young
Okay.
Boston team.
Perennial title contender. Is that better?
Young perennial title contender.
Just perennial title contender.
Who?
Celtics.
What does perennial mean?
They're always there.
They're not.
If they get it here this year.
That's 2 years in a row. That's not every year. That's just 2
They're
years.
getting there, man. They're on the way.
It's just 2.
They're an up and coming perennial title contender.
Now we're just adding more words.
We-
We're just keep adding phrase onto phrase.
But yeah, the two legendary franchises of the Lakers and the Celtics would definitely get the most ratings in an NBA Finals.
They would, but it's also the most boring.
If you're bored like me in the sense of I'm tired of seeing these guys there all the time, specifically LeBron, then absolutely. Which is why I picked Philly and Denver. That's ideal for me. Doesn't help out the NBA as a whole, I don't think.
No.
But
the NBA storyline overall of year 20 LeBron versus the most storied franchises in NBA history going at it this year.
again, yeah.
Biggest sell of all time.
That's fair.
I don't know about all time, but definitely works for those fan bases
Of
and
the
the global
past
fan base
of the
because
past 10 years, probably.
Would
LeBron's on the
easily
Lakers,
get
and
their best ratings that they've had
yeah,
in a while. Not just on Twitter either. Like it would actually pull in real viewership that the NBA has been missing for quite a few years now.
They miss it most of the time, but they usually get back together in the finals. They get a good finals run in there.
Or so often. And 12 to 15 isn't going to cut it when it's a finals game. Regardless if it's a 7-game series, that's not going to cut it. You need more, far more than that, especially when it comes to your finals.
Most of the main viewers in countries overseas don't watch it at the same time we do. So tape
They
delays.
do for the NFL.
NFL's on midday usually. Finals are always at night.
That's another problem I think the
yeah,
NFL
that shit
why
don't end
or
until
the
midnight.
NBA and why they have such a large problem when it comes is they prioritize I think rightly so because the teams that are really good right now are all on the West Coast, but they prioritize instead of putting the West Coast games at a time where East Coasters, people who live on the East Coast could watch it, they put it at the prime time for West Coast. And so you alienate honestly half of the country when you think about it because it's prime time 8 9 o'clock West Coast. That's still 9 10 o'clock Central. That's even more so for the East Coast. I think you alienate half the country just because you prioritize West Coast time and teams. I think that they don't do themselves justice by prioritizing it that way.
You could say that's a fair assessment.
It is a fair assessment, but at the same time, those games are starting at what, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock there?
What do you mean?
What else do you want them to do if they're
No,
playing
no,
in a
no.
West Coast time frame?
No, West Coast. The West Coast games a lot of times will start at like 8 or 9 o'clock Western, which means that they're not. Dude, there are games that are starting at in Central Time at 8 o'clock, while it's 7 o'clock on the West Coast, which means that
It'd be
it's
6 o'clock on the West Coast.
or yeah 6. So then it's also 10 on the East
It's
Coast, which
nine on
means
the
by the time
nine on
that
the East Coast. Time zones, man.
I
We only
said
have four of them.
I said start at 9 o'clock Central. If it starts at 9 o'clock Central, then it's 7 o'clock Western, East Coast time. It's 10 o'clock. If the game lasts for 2.5 hours like it usually does, it's just late.
It's very late. Yeah, I agree.
Started at 4 o'clock.
No,
It don't work in California anyways.
So you're saying start the primetime
it's
game,
prime time.
the primetime standalone
Prime
game.
time has like a certain time frame, and they play during prime time.
That's I get it, but that's also why their views are low is because they alienate
Because
half the
they're in
country
prime
because they
time.
play it so no,
The whole TV network calls it prime time
If you start
and
it
they
at four
because it's
o'clock,
prime
and
time for viewership.
but here's the thing is every other sport that
This
runs
is
it
why
off
the
of prime
Masters
time
doesn't get views.
every other sport that runs it at prime time runs it off of East Coast prime time, not West Coast prime time.
but if you start their game at 4 o'clock, there's still games going on in the whole entire league by the time the game starts anywhere else.
I'm just saying why their views are low. I'm not saying how you fix it.
I'm just saying they probably have ass games for primetime half the time.
Well, from the NBA, it's every game.
This guy stays trashing the NBA.
So the day I
I
die,
don't appreciate it.
that's all right.
He doesn't know ball.
Well, it seems like the rest of the world doesn't appreciate it either because it has low views.
It's all on tape delay, man.
Views.
It's all on tape delay.
It's all on Twitter. That's where it is. That's
You're
where you go
on
to watch.
Twitter.
It's on Twitter. We're all three on
The
there.
show's on Twitter at Bob and Bo Show. For more of this crappy dialogue, follow us
about time zones.
Dude. I'm sorry. That was a really frustrating conversation to listen to.
I'm glad you stayed in the back and didn't say anything.
Bro, I'd have confused it even more because I would like none of you guys are making sense.